One of the questions people ask me when they first start investing in real estate syndications is, hey Jeff, how much money do I get paid while I'm in this deal? Seems like a fair enough question to me, right? Well, syndications use what's called a waterfall calculation to structure and compensate the two main groups involved, and that is the GP or the general partner, or the LP, the limited partner, which is you, the passive investor. Now, there are multiple ways in which waterfalls are designed, and in this video, we're going to simplify how cash is distributed between the general partners and the limited partners via a distribution waterfall. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Jeff Anzalone. A periodontist is on a mission to get you out of the rat race with passive income creation. You can download the free passive income guide I put together just for you below this video. Let's start off by answering the question, what exactly is a waterfall distribution in real estate? Well, in order to best understand what a waterfall structure looks like, we're going to do a little demonstration here. I want you to close your eyes and imagine what a waterfall looks like. Okay, go ahead, do it. I'll wait. All right, eyes closed. Visualize what a waterfall looks like to you. Got it? All right, now I want you to imagine water flowing over a ledge into another body of water, and then visualize it hitting another ledge before flowing to the next level. Got it? Okay, you can open your eyes now. Well, did you get the picture? So it looks sort of something like this. So you've got a little waterfall and it hits a ledge like this, then the water flows down, hits another ledge like this. So that is basically the basic structure of this, and a real estate waterfall is very similar to this. And again, this is what we're going to get into today. Now, the real estate waterfall, basically, it's a legal term, and it's used in an operating agreement that describes how, when, and to whom funds are paid in real estate syndication deals. Now, it's designed to ensure that the interest of the general partners and the limited partners align up in a way that properly compensates everybody that's involved in an investment. So as a passive investor, your distributions, the passive income, will typically flow according to this waterfall distribution schedule. Now, think of this again as a cascading structure of payments that basically flow down in a specific order. All right. So let's talk about an example. So here's an example of what a basic waterfall structure looks like. So let's say that you're a limited partner in a deal that's paying 7% preferred return. All right, or a 7% pref. This basically means you're paid this amount before the general partners are paid. And a preferred return or a pref is typical of the real estate deals, and is the first cash, this is the first cash distributions paid to equity partners. Now, after this pref takes place, then the cash flow splits. They could be done in different ways between the limited partners and the general partners. They could be a 70-30 split where 70% of the profits go to the limited partners, 30% goes to the general partners, 80-20, 90-10. There's all types of different ways, but that's just a couple of examples. And waterfall structures occasionally rely on the IRR, or the internal rate of return, to trigger different payment scenarios. So for instance, when certain IRR hurdles are accomplished, a split between the GP and the LP, it can actually change. And now why this is done is this is set up to keep the general partners incentivized to do their job and get the best investment returns. The preferred returns help the passive investors know that a certain return is guaranteed no matter the performance of the asset, as they're the primary equity source in the deals. And because of this, they can rightfully expect to get their initial investment back along with a nominal amount of interest. This ensures that they receive adequate compensation for the risk they've taken as the majority capital provider within the particular deal that they're in. So let's talk a little bit about how exactly a waterfall is structured. Now, one of the most important legal documents to review when investing in a syndication is something called a PPM, or a private placement memorandum. Within the distribution section of the PPM, you'll be able to see the common types of waterfall structures that's been set up for the particular project that you're investing in. These can include any of these following provisions. The first one, as we mentioned, the pref, or the preferred return. Remember that a preferred return, it refers to the ordering in which profits from commercial real estate projects are distributed to you, the limited partner. It's the order, remember, the order in which the profits are distributed. It's a threshold return that limited partners are offered prior to the general partners getting paid. Now, from the deals that I've been in, this can range anywhere from 5% on the low end to 9% on the high end or higher. The second is equity splits. Now, once the preferred return has been made, then there's an equity split of the remaining returns between the general partner and the limited partner groups. And as we mentioned earlier, these can range from these different things, 70-30, 80-20, 50-50, whatever, depending on how the waterfall structure is originally set up. Third would be the promote. Now, the sponsor promote refers to the share of profit paid to the general partner or the promoter for a project. It's also known as carried interest in other forms of private equity investing. Fourth is the IRR, the internal rate of return hurdle. And this is also known sometimes as the XIRR or the IRR lookback. Now, in this model, a certain threshold or hurdle must be met to trigger new profit sharing arrangements. Fifth would be what's called a catch-up provision. Now, this is similar to the IRR hurdle, but requires 100% of the returns going to the limited partners until a certain threshold is met. After that, any remaining funds go to the general partner. Six is a simple split. Now, many of the syndications that I've been personally invested in have actually had this simple split structure. Now, these are a lot less complicated equity waterfall models they don't contain any IRR hurdles or any prefs, anything like that. All proceeds of the project are split between the limited partners and the general partners. Number 7, return of capital. Return of capital refers to the payments that the investors receive, which returns a portion of the capital that they invested back to them. Usually provisions can be created to achieve a certain threshold of return of capital to an investor before the sponsor receives their returns. Number 8, capital event. Now, a capital event is usually defined as one of two things. It's either the sale of the property or it could be a refinance of the property. And last but not least, tiers. There are examples of two-tiered waterfall agreements that contain different rules for cash flow distributions as well as for capital events. So you may get a simple split for cash flow, whereas a capital event may contain different rules. So why are these distribution waterfalls important in the first place? Well, these models outline all the rules for, you got it, profit distribution in a real estate investment. Now, most general partners like to keep things as simple as possible, as to not confuse some of the limited partners that may not have much experience investing in syndications. There's many types of deal structures available, and it's a good idea to create your goals again before evaluating deals. So for instance, there's deals that set up that allows the limited partners to get their initial investment back as soon as possible. This would be the refinance option. And then there's those where the general partner receives promote interest before the limited partners receive their total investment. In this case, it encourages better performance from the sponsors, which could lead to bigger profits. So let's break down a couple of examples, and two to be exact. So the first one we're going to start off with is a cash flow waterfall. Now, most deals that I've personally invested in the past have anywhere from a 4 to 6 year hold period. Now, a cash flow waterfall tells me how excess cash from a project is going to be distributed during the period. So again, if it's a 5-year hold, well, it's going to tell me how the cash is going to be distributed during this 5-year hold period. Now, what I like to do is break down the different hurdle rates. Again, this is just an example. I want to break down the hurdle rates that are commonly used in the cash flow waterfall structure. All right. So in this case, number one is bucket number one is going to be the preferred return model. Now, it's not uncommon to see 100% of the cash flow distributed to passive investors up to a certain amount. Remember, this is the preferred return. Now, in this particular example, Once the 7% pref is hit, then the cash flows will begin filling up. And remember our cascading waterfall. After this is met, it's going to start filling up our second bucket. And our second bucket is a common equity hurdle. Now, the excess cash inflows, that's now split 70-30, whereas 70% goes to the limited partners and 30% goes to the general partners. Now, once all of this bucket fills up, then the remaining cash will begin filling up and spilling over into the third bucket, which is the performance hurdle. This is based on the originally projected returns, basically. And so for this example, if the project had let's say it had a 13% IRR, internal rate of return, a projection, then this hurdle would not come into play until the passive investors received 13% IRR. Unless there's a refinance or sale of the asset, a secondary hurdle, usually secondary hurdles are rarely hit. Now, in our second calculation, we're going to look at a simple split, and it's going to have a 7% pref. So in this one, we're going to use an apartment complex as an example. So let's say Dr. C invested with 3 other doctors in an apartment complex that had an annual cash flow of $100,000. So in this example, the 4 limited partners, they get 7% off the top, which 7% of $100,000 is $7,000 a year. This is split up to $1,750 a quarter. Now, if you take $100,000, you subtract $7,000, that's going to leave you with $93,000. Now, in this situation, the way that it's set up, the $93,000 is after the pref is made, okay, the limited partners are paid, so now it's split 70-30. So 70% of the remaining $93,000 goes to the limited partners, which in this example, $65,100, and 30% of the $93,000 goes to the general partner, which in this case is $27,900. All right, so the limited partners in real estate syndication deals, which are you and me, the passive investor, we're the ones that provide the majority of the capital to these projects. And these waterfalls are a way to help protect that capital. Plus, remember, they incentivize the sponsors to produce the highest returns possible. And all these different types of waterfalls can be structured in a number of different ways, and it's up to you to really understand how you're potentially going to be compensated before you get into a deal. Now, recently I sat down with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Sam Giordano, and he went over a really cool piece of software that he actually developed as a doctor that's investing in these syndications, just like me. But he was, kind of concerned about, figuring out whether a deal is good or not, or look at these different return schedules. So he developed a really cool piece of software. And if you want to check out how it works and how you can use it and how if you can tell whether or not a deal is good or not, then you can check out this video over here where I sat down with him and we looked at this software together, and it's going to be really cool because you're going to learn how to find and evaluate real estate deals with the legendary Dr. Sam Giordano. I'll see you in that video.